Hello guys, in this run-up to the CAT interviews, I would like to share my own personal experience and give you a few advice on the same about how to tackle the interviews. Now, as far as my experience is concerned, it was a typical panel of two people where two professors were asking questions. So it started off with basic hygiene questions about tell me about yourself or where are you from, where did you graduate from. So I expressed my interest in finance, and because I had a work experience as a trader and as a machine learning enthusiast, that is where the interview went. Now, a few things which I'd like to point out is that first, don't stress it. Take it as a conversation where you're trying to express yourself. See, the fact that you've made it to the interview is proof enough about your technical competence. The interview is just about articulation, about how you express yourself, and they need to know about you, right? And after that, you get to control the interview through the very first question where you are asked these open-ended questions like tell me about yourself or what are you interested in. So the direction that you take is where the interview goes. So let's say if I express that, okay, I worked as a machine learning engineer, then most of my interview was about artificial intelligence and the current affairs of the same topic. And as far as work-ex or college questions are concerned, be very sure and be very precise about how you answer them. Like you have to have a structure. Like, okay, the problem statement you shouldn't exceed more than 4 lines. Then tell about how you worked the problem around, even if it was successful or not, and then discuss the aftermath about how the process went. Other than that, my advice would be very confident, be very articulate about your answers.
So talking about people with work experience, so it is really important for you to research about the company where you're currently working at and also the previous companies where you've worked at. It basically involves end-to-end analysis of where your company actually began from the history of the company to where the recent developments regarding your company are going, especially if they've been highlighted in the media. You should also be thorough about your work experience, the major accomplishments which you've had during your work and the major projects which you've covered. Moving on, questions like why MBA, why not continue with the current job, what after MBA, and which specialization would you take after MBA are really important. And these questions are the questions which you need to really sit and think through. Why that is important is because the mistake which most of the candidates make is that they are very general in the answers which they give. What you have to do is to bring some amount of originality and honesty in your answer. Being honest throughout your interview really helps you out. Lastly, brush up the general knowledge regarding the current affairs which are going on as well as about the state you're coming from. So basically it is very important to know ins and outs about the current location you're situated at. And this is also true for the hobby which you have. You should know end to end about your current hobby, about your what basically motivated you to pursue that hobby, who are the major famous personalities who are doing that form of art, and also what the history of that particular art form has been. Covering all of these topics in detail will really enrich your preparation. Finally, do make it a point that you give at least 3 to 4 mock interviews with your seniors or mentors before going in for your final interview, and also take that critical feedback really positive, in a very positive manner.
The PI process, I think personal interview is the most interesting component of the whole selection process. That's the make or break of the whole situation. So, firstly, when you enter the room, enter with a lot of confidence. That's the first thing. Secondly, the first question is not tell me about yourself. The first question is how are you doing? You can drive the whole interview towards you by just answering a good how are you doing. You can just talk about where you've been, how you've traveled there, or anything about that matter. And a lot of people have problems in figuring out what to say in tell me about yourself. So in tell me about yourself, just keep 3 or 4 things which you dearly love. So for instance, in my tell me about yourself, I talked about movies, I talked about marketing, which is my work experience, and I talked about theatre, which I've been practicing for the past 5 years. So talking about these, I drove the whole interview towards me. So there were a couple of questions he kept asking me about my acting. So he was like, Nishant, I feel you are not such a good person. You're just acting here. What are the chances that you're acting here? So you just have a laugh around with them. You have a discussion about you. That's it. Also, lastly, which everybody should know here is the 3 golden words. I don't know. You should always say, not always. You should, when you don't know something, you can say I don't know. It's better than saying the wrong thing. So just keep these couple of things in mind and you'll do well.
Quite often I get asked this question that I have this much score, so do I have a good chance to convert IIMK, or how will I fare in respect with other people who have scored more than I? The thing is, IIMK is such a campus which loves diversity. So please remember this: if you are shortlisted, it means you have as good a chance to to convert this college as any other person, because IIMK gives you two places where you can redeem yourself. First is your profile, and second is your personal interview. So your profile, as long as your profile has those spike points which can attract anyone's attention, as long as you have something that you can talk about for days and days, then you have equal chance of getting shortlisted. There are people who have thousands of followers on Instagram and YouTube pages. There are people who have research papers in the name. There are people who have done commendably good in some sports they loved. So as long as you have such spike points on your profile, you have very good chance of converting IIMK. Second part where you can still redeem yourself is your interview. Trust me, IIMK interviews are one of the most jolly interviews around. The professors here who conduct the interviews, they love talking, and they can talk about anything for as long as you sound interesting. For example, in my own case, we talked about my name for more than 10 minutes because they loved my name, and they talked about the historical inference of it and how I feel about the name. In my own interview, I had for straight 5 questions I answered that, sir, I don't know the answer, because I was very weak at mathematics. And they didn't mind it because I was really honest and I was confident about all the rest questions in my entire interview. So the crux of the story, irrespective of your score, irrespective of your past, irrespective of your academic profile, you still got 2 ways how you can redeem yourself. So don't think about anything else. Just be confident, be honest, and give your best in your interview.